Thank God. Baruch Hashem. Doing great. Doing good. Doing very well. And a lot of important things to share. Because, we say we're doing great, and we are. Yet, this is a time in the Jewish world of time of mourning. And I want to explain that a little bit. How do I answer I'm doing great when it's time of mourning? Let's try to understand this a little bit. I want you to imagine, we have this Zoom meetings and it's great. I want you to imagine a second, not so hard to imagine, unfortunately, in places like China and America was like this very much. Imagine the lockdowns continued and they were more and more onerous. And imagine a kid who grew up and he never actually saw other people. And the only people he saw were on Zoom. Could you imagine a terrible, terrible situation? Kid grows up, has no interaction with the outside. Okay, he has his parental structure, otherwise the story wouldn't work. But he's never been outside, he's never seen kids. Everything's on Zoom. And he can't imagine what it's like to actually be in a room with human beings because he grew up like that. You grow up in a society, grow up in a certain way, that's your reality. You can't imagine. Rav Leff gives a beautiful example. He says, imagine a place where people were crippled and they had to work with wheelchairs, but the organization didn't want people to feel bad, so they made everyone go in wheelchairs. And then there's children born into this thing, and they also have to sit in the wheelchairs. And that's their reality. And one day the kid who grew up third generation of only using wheelchairs goes outside and he sees people walking around on 2 feet. He can't believe it. It's a different world. We live in a world that we don't realize how messed up it is. We think we do, but we don't. There was a place in the world that existed that you felt a connection to God that was clear. And in this place, if anyone went to visit, Jew, non-Jew, whoever went, felt immediately this clarity in their lives and in the world. There's actually a story brought in the Midrash about the great philosopher Plato. Plato, he was traveling apparently with the conquering nations as they were sweeping across the Middle East. It was in Babylon, I guess. And the story is that he actually he saw the prophet Jeremiah, after the temple was destroyed. And he sees the prophet Jeremiah crying. And he's like, aren't you the leader of the Jews? I've heard about you. You're supposed to be so wise, supposed to be a prophet. I've heard about discussions about this Jeremiah, and you're crying over a building? So the prophet Jeremiah said, okay, I heard you're a great wise person amongst the nations. In Athens, you're known. Tell me some of your philosophical inquiries. What is the hardest thing that you want to know, you want to understand? And the story goes that Plato listed for him all these various things. And then Yirmiyah, one by one, answered each one. And he said, there's two reasons why I cry. One, I can't tell you. You'll never understand. But the second reason I cry is because all of those questions you asked me, I know because I walk into that place. I walk into the temple and there's clarity, and I know all that because of this. Because of this place that was in the world, I understand everything that you're baffled by. And when Plato heard all these answers, he couldn't believe it. How could one person know it? Because the Greeks wanted to talk about the greatness of the human mind. Yes, the human mind is great. God gave us an incredible human mind to understand. But whenever scientists try to understand the brain, they can't really do it because the brain is not big enough to hold the amount of information you have in the brain. The brain's a physical thing that somehow connects something beyond. Everyone here has had an idea. Where'd you get the idea from? Where'd you get an idea from? How did it pop into your head? Where'd it come from? Well, I'm really smart. I thought of it. No, you didn't. It came from something beyond. The brain is a physical entity that is a conduit for something beyond. And the temple was this conduit for something beyond. It was the place where the heavens and earth met. It was the place. And not only if you went there, the existence of a temple in the entire world meant that God's presence was palpable. You could feel it. You understood. Now, the Midrash doesn't say the second reason that Jeremiah didn't tell Plato. He doesn't say the second reason. I imagine, because Plato, I don't know exactly, but I imagine he told Plato what he could understand. Plato was someone who loved wisdom. Philosophy means the love of wisdom. You want wisdom? Okay, I'll tell you, I got wisdom. Where do I have it from? I have it from the source. Your human mind goes only so far. But I have it from beyond that. I have it from this connection to God. It's not a house. It's not a place. God doesn't need a place. God created a reality in the world where it says he wanted to have his presence felt in the world. And therefore, and that's what Moses said when God told him to build a tabernacle. That's what King Solomon said. How is it possible? It's not possible. God's presence is a physical thing. It's infinite. That's true. It's beyond mystery, beyond this. But what God did say was, create this structure the way I want, and you will be able to feel my presence in the world. And the temple provided that. The temple was the place. There is a rock in the place of the temple that where our tradition says that was somehow the center forming point of the world. And you should know, in the first temple times when we had the Holy Ark, it stood on this rock. Giant rock. That's where Abraham brought up Isaac as an offering. That is where our sources tell us the world began from. Whatever that means, I don't know what that means exactly. And Abraham brought Isaac as an offering there. And in the first temple time, the ark was sitting there. Now, in the second temple times, before the second temple times, the king Yoshiyahu was one of the great kings of Israel. When he knew the destruction was coming, he hid the ark. They hid it because they knew the temple was going to be destroyed. So they hid the ark in the labyrinths underneath the temple that King Solomon had built. And they hid the ark. So in the second temple time, when they did the service in the Holy of Holies on the day of Yom Kippur, they did the service and they put the incense offering on the rock itself. We know about this. The Talmud talks about it in great detail, the rock and that. Now, if you think about it a second, you say, wait a minute. Isn't there a place now on the spot of the Temple Mount? And there is. And what do they call it? The Dome of the Rock. Why do they call it Dome of the Rock? Because it's the dome that now has the rock that was there, that we have thousands of years had this place. Now, if this place, the temple, was so important to understand, again, and it doesn't mean just building a building is going to bring God's presence. It means when we're spiritually ready for it, God's presence came into the world and he gave us a structure that represented that relationship. Do you know, I just found out this week. I didn't know this. This is fascinating to me. When the Dome of the Rock was built, it was meant to be a sort of, I guess, tribute to the temple of King Solomon. And I don't know exactly. There's different theories of what Malik, when he built it, what he thought. Did he think it was a tribute? Did he want to say that now Muslims were taking control of this holy place and now they were the new bearers of the temple? Whatever, that's a different discussion than what I want to discuss today. But whatever it is, they put their spot right there. And the amazing thing is we're like these kids who grew up in this house that people are walking around with their wheelchairs, and we don't even know we're missing the temple. And you know what? Look at what the Muslims say now. When they built the mosque, they weren't saying that the temple wasn't there. That was part of their honor. The temple was there, and now they took it over, whatever the philosophy of why they wanted to build their spot on the holy spot of the temple. But that was well-known business. Everyone knew that. And now today, we live in a new world. We live in a world like this. It says when time of Mashiach comes, when it gets close, there's certain signs that it's going to be really close. And one of those signs is, it says, emes ne'ederes. Truth, it's gone. It's the funniest thing in the world. It's like, it's not funny. It's only funny because it's so sad. But it's like, beforehand, you said, okay, you know, now we have the temple, this was the spot. Okay, now we took it. Now we have our own story. We took over or whatever it is. Now, truth is a whole new business. No, the Muslims say it would never happen. The one who built it said it happened. Everyone knew it happened. That's why you put the dome on the rock. But now, oh no, it never happened. And so you go on to your YouTube or your Google feed, and all of a sudden there's a new reality. And this is the new truth. Men or women, men. It never happened. This never happened. Okay, I don't know. There's so much information, I don't even know where to start. And this guy's telling me this, guy's telling me that. We were a world that had truth in it and was palpable. And I told you, when King Solomon built the temple, there were no famines any place in the world, no natural disasters. There was peace, there was truth. And we grew up in a world that is not like that. So we don't even know what we're missing. We don't even know what we're missing. It's unbelievable. And now, not only has the world been ripped away from this power and this connection, but now you live in a world where everyone's telling you stuff that has no basis in anything. And you don't even know. Yeah, no. Solomon, I don't know. Who's Solomon? I don't know. It's very unfortunate, but I remember when I lived in Israel years ago, I remember there was some people, something called the Temple Institute. They tried to protect certain things. And I remember I was living in the old city of Jerusalem, and I remember there was somebody there who was working connected with the Temple Institute, and they were showing videos of digging down into these areas that was being overseen by the Waqf. The Waqf is the Israelis gave up control. The Jordanians will have control. The Temple Mount, some strange business, and they were like digging out and getting rid of the artifacts, thousands and thousands of year-old artifacts that clearly demonstrated what this place was. Because truth is not the truth is no longer that important. We're not really care about the truth. So that's what happens. Now we all have a problem. And I, as a Jew, have this problem. And certainly you all have this problem. We all have this problem. I never saw the temple. I grew up I grew up also in the world of Zoom. I also grew up in the world with, everyone's in wheelchairs, and I never saw the real world. So it's very hard. We don't know what we're missing. I'm telling you stories, but this is what I grew up with. So what can and should we do? The Jewish people here during the 9 days, they mourn the temple, which people think is very strange, that every year people sit on the floor and cry. I mean, I don't know. It's like, I live in the South of America. I don't think they have, I don't think they have on people sitting on the ground mourning the Civil War. I don't know. I never saw it. Maybe you ever see that? I never saw it. I don't know what. One guy told me when I moved to the South, one guy said to me, I said, well, Larry, the Civil War is over. He goes, it ain't over yet. I don't know, because we call it the War of Northern Aggression, so he told me. So I don't know, but like there's people don't have, if somebody, let's say, lived in Italy and then they moved to America, one generation, eventually they become American. Yeah, they might like pizza still and whatever they're doing, but they're American, yeah. But the Jews around the world mourn and cry over the loss of the temple. That's what we're doing now. That's the period of time now. People literally sit on the floor and cry. That's what we do. I remember one time when I met my my rabbi, passed away many years ago, and then I went to seek out another rabbi for myself. And I remember years and years ago, I walked into his office. I'd heard about him, and I walked into his office and I said I wanted to learn these great books of these secret teachings of the Torah. So my rabbi looked at me and he said, "Well, do you even have a soul?" I said, I think so. So he said, "Do you ever cry?" I said, "Sometimes." He said, when do you cry?" I said, "Sometimes I cry on the 9th of Av when the temple is destroyed." I said, "Oh, maybe you do have a soul." So there's a point of like, we're disconnected and we got to connect. So Jewish people are mourning during this time. And I want to tell you about this mourning because he asked me before. Dan said, "How you doing, Rabbi?" I said, "Great." I don't care. Because you have to understand the principle. The whole idea of the mourning is only for the redemption in the end. The temple will be rebuilt on Tisha B'Av. The 9th of Av, when the temple was destroyed, that's what's going to be rebuilt again. That's going to become the greatest holiday. Because how do you understand your problems? If you believe, we talked about it a few weeks ago, if you have crazy wrong beliefs, you believe God's out to strike you, so then the bad things are bad things. But if the bad things are trying to get us to wake up, then they will actually be the redemption in the end. So Tisha B'Av is sad. And I got to cry about it because I got to know what I'm missing. Right? If you don't know what you're missing, I ask many times. I have a special course that I'm about to do with some close students, the SNAP, but I want to make sure everyone's signed up. And you can't come without signing. Why is that? Because if you don't appreciate something and you don't put anything towards it, when you get it, you don't know you have it. So we lost the temple. I got to cry. So whoever cries over Jerusalem will see the building of Jerusalem. So Jews throughout the world are crying now, but not crying in a silly way where it's, no, we're crying because we're yearning. We're yearning for that connection. We want it back. We understand we're missing something. Even if we've grown up this way, never saw the world in a normal way. And the world gets nuttier and nuttier. Gets nuttier and nuttier every day. Every day, I just looked at this Talmud again that says one of the signs of Mashiach to come is truth is completely hidden. And I looked it up again. It gives a whole list of things. It sounds like I'm reading a newspaper. It's like truth is there. The government is complete. It's called meanness. The government has these crazy ideas. I'm reading the list of all the things that happen when Mashiach comes. I couldn't believe I saw it today. It says, and there'll be growing stuff, but the prices are going to go crazy. Literally, I saw it today again. The Talmud says inflation, everything you're reading the stories of what's happening in the insane world. You're saying, right, gosh, I'm reading the Talmud. It's like I'm reading the newspaper. It's exactly what's going on. This is what's happening. They're playing it out. So what do we do? What do we do? The Jews are mourning this loss and and I want to talk about everyone here in this group. What should you all do? What should I do? What should we do? We've talked about the 7 Noachide laws, and there's one that we've mentioned very often, which is very hard to do, I've been talking to you about this because this is what I really want you all to, take up the message for. But the seventh is to create courts that follow and live by the laws of the seven Noahide laws. And that's very hard because, I don't know, you can go and vote, but you got to be majority. So what happens if you're not a majority? You got to tell people, so maybe you'll have the majority. But what do you do if you're not the majority? So this is what we can do. This is really, really crucial. The Medrash says, this is so amazing because it's so different than what you hear in the world. The Medrash says, God says, whether you're a man or a woman, Jewish or not Jewish, a free person or even a slave, it all goes by your actions. Hear this? This is not, we don't have any, there's no like, this guy's got an in, he doesn't have to be so good. He's got an in, he knows somebody. No, it all goes by your actions. Whoever's actions is proper, then God's presence could rest on them. So what do you want to do now? What you want to do is something very important. It's called prayer, tefillah. Tefillah comes from the word patil, which means a connection. It's a connection. And what you want to do is, and I'm recommending this, not as the structure, whatever structure you pray in, I know many of you have the Brit Olam Siddur prayer book that gives prayers. I'm not discussing that right now. That's obviously very crucial. I'm talking about just speaking to Hashem where you want to be. You might not be able to control the elections. You might live in a society that truth is just so messed up that I don't know. But you have to verbalize where you want to be. And now is a crucial time to do it. To verbalize, to say to Hashem, I want to be a part of this. I want to be connected to the Jewish people. I want to be one who sees the temple being built. The temple was for everyone. I said it a million times, but I'll say it again. The Talmud says if the non-Jews knew what the temple was doing for them, they would put 24-hour guards around it. Because again, it's not that's the physical place. It represents the idea that we're able to receive God's presence in this world in a proper way. And once we can't, then it's gone. And other people put their structures there and make up new stories. That's the crucial part right now. During this period, we have another few days. Next Sunday, we'll not have a class. Next Sunday is going to be Tisha B'Av. I don't know, maybe maybe we'll be sitting on the floor and crying, and maybe we'll do something, but I can't commit to right now to what state we're in. But I think that this period of time right now, you all have an important mission. The important mission is to verbalize where your heart is. Speech is so fascinating. Speech is what makes us human. And what speech does is it moves things from the hidden world to the actual physical world. It's a bridge. That's why in Hebrew, the word thing and the word speech is the same word. Because when I speak something, I'm creating a reality. I'm taking my thoughts and I'm now making them out into the world. So a lot of times, you see a husband and wife and they say, do you love me? Yeah, of course I love you. Well, how come you never say it? You should know already. I said it 30 years ago. Gotta say it again? No, you gotta say it again. Because when you say it, you will feel it. You will bring what may be stuck in the recesses of your mind into reality. And therefore, during this period of time right now, which is a mourning and a yearning for what it is, it's just crying for no reason. It's crying because we realize we're missing and we want it, and then we can get it. It is important to verbalize. Close your eyes during this week, talk to Hashem, say, I want to be in, the world's going crazy. I want to be on the side of right. I want to be on the side of good. I want to support and help and guide and be involved and support the Jewish people's return to the land of Israel, the Holy Land. I want to see the temple. I want to pray to God in the direction of the temple. And all Jews face the direction of the temple. I'm sure you know that. They'll face the temple. Wherever we are, in the four corners of the earth, we face the temple because that is a point. Well, God doesn't need a point, obviously, but he gave us that to go into and to allow us in the physical world to experience him. So that's my recommendation, is to try during this very, very powerful time, so powerful, because when you see a challenge, you know that there's an equal and opposite great side that's waiting for you on the other side. That's why it's there. So when now in this time, this powerful time of Av, when the temple was destroyed, we're going to say, I know it's going to be built now also. The potential's there. Do I want to be part of it? You do. Then open our mouths and take the thought and the feeling and speak it out. You don't have to scream it. God hears it. God knows what you're thinking, right? So why do I have to say it? Because I got to make it real. I got to make it real in my world. So take that time during the next few days. That's what you could do. That's what I said earlier. As the measure says, everyone, Jew, not Jew, male, female, slave or free person, whatever they did, goes by their deeds. And therefore, you want to be able to go and do this and have this prayer and say what you want and really talk to God and thereby really plant your stake in the ground, put your flag in the ground of where you are. And that's what has to be done right now. That's my advice. It's a very powerful thing to do. And that's going to be the way that you're going to establish who you are and where you're going to be.